and welcome to the end of 2024. There's a lot that I want to talk about 2024. To be honest, 2024 has been kind of a crazy year for me. I just realized that I forgot my microphone. Okay, so this is a little blessing that I got from a fairy shop in 2022, but we're just gonna go ahead and clip this on there. Wonderful. Great. Fantastic. What was I saying? Let's get into 2024. I read so many books in 2024. Let me just take you on a journey real quick. I have always been a reader. In high school, I have attempted to challenge myself to read a certain number of books per year. I started out with 50, and I continuously have strived to meet that goal. When I started my career life after graduating college, I started teaching first, but then I went into the business field and I read a lot of books in that time period, up to I think 180. One year was my highest mark. Then in 2020, something happened. Who knows? Who knows what that was? But I stopped reading. Like, I remember distinctly like reading a book. I remember reading Joseph Campbell's A Hero with a Thousand Faces. And that was like the last real book that I ever remember reading before COVID. And I think I had started reading it right when COVID was announced, and I finished it right when we left school. I stopped reading for like 2 years. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it was almost like a year. But there was like 2020 to 2021 where I just did not read a single thing. Someone had recommended me a book and I DNF'd it like 25 pages in. And then I moved back to my hometown and I started teaching reading again. And suddenly my reading life has exploded. So the different platforms that I'm using to track my reading, which is definitely something I want to revisit in 2025. The first and main one that I've always been using to track my reading is Goodreads. I've been using Goodreads since I've been in high school, since I started my like reading challenge endeavors. Goodreads is kind of like the home base for me. After using Goodreads for a number of years, I did start using my own reading tracker just because like I wanted to see different statistics that Goodreads didn't have available. And then recently this year, I started using Fable. It does have two separate tracking formats. You can track books or you can track TV shows. Although I will say that the TV show side of the platform seems to be a little less updated than the book side of the platform. A lot of what Fable does imports directly from Goodreads. So if you're looking to make the switch, it actually isn't that bad of a transition. And Fable does really cool graphics for their year-end wrap-up, which I did do recently, and I'm going to show some of the graphics on screen. They're just a little bit more fun, I think, than the Goodreads. The Goodreads graphics are really cool, but I really like the way that Fable did their reading wrap-up graphics. And it's a really pretty app, I'd say. The aesthetics are definitely on point. This is a whole different discussion. We're going to talk about this in a different video. There is a distinct difference in the numbers that are accounted for on Goodreads versus what is accounted for on Fable, which is why I mainly use my personal reading tracker. Let's talk about some of my reading stats. The first book that I read in 2024 was Dandelion Wine, a Ray Bradbury classic, one of the top books of 2024 for sure. I didn't really like it at first. I wasn't getting into it, but slowly but surely, just like all Ray Bradbury stuff, really pulled me in, really made me feel that vibe. The last book that I read, I'm reading right now, which I'm about to finish. I'm only like 30 minutes away from the end, is System Collapse. And I want to have a whole conversation about what I've been reading recently because I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with the Murderbot Diaries. If you have never read All Systems Red, it's the first in the Murderbot series. This series is so good. I love this series so much. I find myself just like chuckling every 5 minutes
just being like, oh, I relate to Murderbot so much and all of the other robots in the series. And it's like very much a sci-fi thriller with a comedy element. And I don't know how else to describe it, because when I've tried to explain it to people in my life that I think would really love this series, I find that I'm not selling it properly. So if you have suggestions on how to sell this, because this series is so good. This series is so good. It's so funny. It's so well written. It's so heartfelt. And I am about to finish the 7th book in the series, which is the most recent book. And I'm going to cry because there's no Murderbot after this. And I don't know what to read after I finish the Murderbot series. What do I do? I did finish Dandelion Wine in 2024, but I had started it in 2023. So the first book that I actually started in 2024, Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire, which I also saw in theaters in November, but I had never read the book. The book is, let me say this. If you are a fan of the musical, you may not be a fan of the book. The musical does, it really more mainstreams Gregory Maguire's book, because I feel like the musical does a great job of like incorporating a lot emotional context for certain characters, and the book does more of emphasizing the political drama behind Wicked. There's definitely some changes from the book to the musical. So if you are going to read the book, be prepared for certain characters to not have the kind of relationship that they have in the musical. If you really enjoyed the political kind of world building of Wicked, the musical, I think you will really enjoy the book. I personally did. The main format of my reading in 2024, I haven't looked at it yet. So let me guess. I'm going to guess that my main reading format was audiobooks. I think I read more audiobooks or listened to more audiobooks than I have ever in any year previous, because I listened to a lot of audiobooks. And let's just say I listened to multiple platforms for my audiobooks. I started out with a subscription to Audible, which I have had for a very long time, and I ended up canceling my subscription to Audible just because I found that while I was listening to a lot of audiobooks, I wasn't listening at the pace that I really needed to make the Audible subscription count. Besides the fact that Hoopla, which is a app through my local library, had a lot more audiobooks available that I wanted to listen to, that I could listen to at the pace that made sense for me, and I didn't have to pay $15 a month. I also used Spotify audiobook listening hours because I've already have a subscription for Spotify. I have a family subscription, and it comes with 15 hours of audiobook listening. And I used that starting, I think, in the spring or the summer. And I found that that was honestly the best, because most of the audiobooks that I listened to on Spotify, I also read physically. And so if my hours expired, it was kind of okay because I could just read the paper version, the print version of the book. For most of the books that I have wanted to listen to in 2024, Spotify has been available with listening hours. And if it hasn't been, I have also had Hoopla, which has been kind of the best way to transition out of Audible. If you have a good library system and they use Hoopla, I highly, highly recommend it, because Hoopla not only has audiobooks, but it also has ebooks and movies and TV shows, and music as well. It is a really great resource, at least in my opinion, the way that my library is using it. It seems to be a lot of the really more popular stuff. And I'm sure that my library has other digital formats, platforms that they use, but Hoopla is just my preferred one because the user interface is so easy. I don't think I ever like answered that question. Is audiobooks my main reading format this year? My second most favored format in 2024 was paperback, but audiobook takes the lead significantly. There were several audiobooks that I went back and forth between listening to and reading the print version, so I think that's why audiobook lands up on top. I did read quite a few print versions, hardbacks and paperbacks of the books that are on my shelf, which I am incredibly proud of. There have been a couple of ebooks this year that I really enjoyed, but I'm finding it really difficult. The only device that I have to read ebooks on is my phone or my computer. I don't have a Kindle. I don't have a Kobo, which I do kind of want one, but I don't feel like I read enough ebooks to make it to justify it. Reading on my phone is not ideal. It does not feel like reading. It feels like I'm on my phone, and I don't like being on my phone. I'm gonna be honest. Like, people can reach me on my phone. Like, people can text me and call me on my phone. And if I'm on my phone when they call me or text me, like, interrupted. So I'd really rather not read on my phone. If I'm going to make an effort to read more ebooks in 2025, I'm probably going to get a Kobo or a Kindle. I don't have any plans to get one right now. Okay, what's the next thing that I'm trying to? Oh, the genre. I think the thing that I got the most of was science fiction fantasy. I was in the top 5% of sci-fi readers, which I think means I read the most sci-fi this year. I was in the top 0.5% of short stories readers. I did read a lot of short stories this year, and I've pulled a lot of short stories from just like different collections that I've been reading that I really enjoy. I'm a big short story reader, actually. I do really love the novellas on Prime Reads. There were some really good ones. I think one of my favorites has Deaths of the Saint by Alex Harrow. That was really, really good. And I've heard that she's supposed to expand that into a full novel, which I don't know how I feel about, but I would read it. I did read some romance, but not a lot. I think I'll probably get into more romance in 2025. I'd like to. There's a couple of authors that really like pulled my interest, especially when I was reading like their short novellas through Prime Reads. So I think there's definitely some romance authors that I want to explore in 2025. And then I read my 1000th book this year in 2024. That's pretty exciting. Who knows which one exactly it was, because the counts are different across my different platforms, but I did read 1,000 books. But according to my reading log, the breakdown of men to women to non-binary or unknown authors, I have read mostly male authors. And I'm going to attribute this fact to the time period where I read the most books, and being an English major, a lot of the books that we read are by men. Reading classics, literature, it's male dominated. I feel like I have read a lot more women authors, a lot more non-binary authors, a lot more trans authors in the very recent years that I have been reading. And I think that's just because I've become more aware of them. In recent years, it's been more diverse than it has been in the past. I'm trying to be more aware of that as well when I go into books that I'm reading and books that I'm exploring. One of my favorite authors that I just was introduced to this year was N.K. Jemisin. She is an author I am going to be reading a lot more of in the future. I've already gotten, I think, 2 more of her books. I just really loved The Killing Moon and The Shadowed Sun. I just loved those 2 books this year. They were just so incredible. N.K. Jemisin is honestly, like, she's one of my top tier authors now. And I loved the short story that I read through Prime Reads this year by her as well. So she has just been hit after hit after hit for me. I'm really excited to read The City We Became, and then the second book in the series for that, because those are the 2 books that I have coming that I'm super excited to read. What I bought and what I got. I did a book haul video earlier this year, and I have accumulated a lot of books since then, but I haven't tried to like buy books. That's not true. Yesterday was my birthday, so I bought a whole bunch of books for myself on my birthday that are going to be delivered here in a couple of days, and I'm saving that. I'm pretending that that's 2025 book buying, not 2024. So I did buy a bunch of books at Scholastic Book Fair, but I also accumulated books from little free libraries / from school, because our school is full of readers also, and they leave books for people to take. And so I can't resist it sometimes. I just see a book and I'm like, I want to take that home with me. Please come home with me, book. And it says, yes, Brenna. Yes, I'll come home with you. And then I take it home, and then I don't have any room on my shelf at the end of the day. Oh, and also I did make a purchase. I made this purchase earlier this year, but it came in on Christmas, Heavenly Tyrant. I have not read it yet. Okay, don't spoil it. I'm so excited to read this. Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for so long. I was excited about this in January of last year. If this is another cliffhanger, I'm not going to be happy. Maybe I wait to read it until a little bit closer to her next book release, and then I can be like, boom, boom, boom. That's a thought. I might be reading it sooner than I'm leading on. I didn't make a number of books of how much I spent on books. So maybe that'll be a goal for 2025 for me to actually keep track of how much I'm spending on books, because a lot of what I read, I feel like I could be doing for free, you know? All right, so let's talk about the other goals. Obviously, I'm always trying to read more diversely. I did make a video about the new releases that I am excited about for in 2025. And if I'm going to be realistic, people ask me all the time about books that have recently come out, like as if I am reading them. So I think I do want to try and prioritize some new releases this year, maybe like once a month reading a new release. We'll see, because I feel like my reading has been pretty much like by my mood for the last decade. So maybe I want to try and prioritize a little bit more of reading just outside of like what I normally read. My final goal is to dedicate time every day to reading, which I'm already doing. I pretty much read every day. I cannot get through my morning commute without listening to an audiobook. Okay, I think that's it for my reading wrap up of 2024. I hope you have a fabulous day wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.